He came round to take her out. No, he came round often to take her out. They looked good together. Julie and I thought he might be the one. Then one day a woman came and beat up our mother, called her a home wrecker, and said she should stay away from her husband. We never saw the man again. The next weekend, mother got herself ready for a night on the town alone. There were bars beside the lagoon where high-life bands played non-stop and men and women danced and a girl could be happy for a few hours. She said with a faraway look in her eyes and walked out to hail a taxi. On her third outing, she came home with Job, and a month later she married him. It lasted 3 years, much longer than grandmother predicted. So I'll just jump forward a little bit. Mother's unhappiness was because of Job, though I sometimes feel she had only herself to blame. I certainly played my part. Julie, at least, was innocent. Job had been laid off from work for some time when he married mother, so he stayed home all day. Mother was a secretary at an insurance company on Lagos Island, and when she got her salary, she gave everything to Job, who drank much of it away. Some of the money was spent on the women he brought into the flat while we were out. Grandmother Comfort came on a visit once, sniffed the air, and said mother had to get rid of Job. I love him, mother said. Then, like magic, Job changed. He helped Julie with her homework and sent me off after school to assist a shopkeeper friend of his in the next street. For this, I got a weekly bonus on my pocket money. I would be out all afternoon and mother would be at work till evening. Oh no, we've got kids here. Oh well, they'll survive. I would be out all afternoon and mother would be at work till evening. Job stayed home and mother grew content. I didn't even mind when I discovered that Job gave my sister more pocket money than me. She was 2 years older after all. I still don't know why I feigned sickness one afternoon and sprang to leave the shop early and sneak back into the house, where I sprang a surprise at my sister's bedroom door. I see someone looking, it's page 94 in case. I saw Job and Julie in that bed and I knew that the suspicion had lurked inside me for months. When mother suggested I go and live with grandmother Comfort soon after, I suspected Job was behind the decision. He wants to get rid of me because of what I know, can't you see? Who? The fool you married. Guess what he's been doing to your daughter behind your back? Fool? You call your stepfather a fool? Mother dealt me a stinging slap just as Job came out of the master bedroom, his punch peeking from under the singlet he wore over drawstring trousers. Don't bother yourself with the child, Emily, he called out. He hates me for taking his father's place. He would say anything. Ignore him, my dear. Without looking his way, mother slapped me again. I held my smarting cheek, feeling only the indignation inside of me. Julie, I shouted, come out here. She emerged slowly from her room, shaking. I pointed in Job's direction. What has that man been doing to you? Tears cascaded down Julie's face. Say it! Has he been sexing you or not? That was how I said it. That was how I said it. Sexing you. My sister dropped to her knees, shut her eyes, and jerked her head into a nod. Job and I rushed to rescue Julie from mother, who punched, kicked, and spat at her. Prostitute, 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 she shouted. You want to ruin my happiness. Job took quick steps backwards till he almost reached the door of the room from which he had emerged minutes before, his hands held out towards mother. Emily, my dear, I don't know how these children hatched this plot, but it is a lie. I know, Job, I know, mother replied, breathless from her assault of Julie. Even if you caught him on top of a woman, you'd never believe it. How much more your own daughter? I walked off in the direction of the stairway, past Julie, who sat weeping on the floor, her dress having been turned to shreds during mother's attack. Next day, Mr. Philander came. In the time of Job, a 20-year-old called Chikezie lived next door. He became friends with Julie and me and spent lots of time in our company like we were age mates. Chikezie had been deported from Italy and was looking for a way back. He talked and talked about Europe. Orunmila Muti, did we know of her? We shook our heads stupidly, shamed by our unworldliness. How could we not know Orunmila Muti? She was the most beautiful woman in the world. She was his girlfriend for a time. We didn't believe this last bit. We suspected Chikezie took drugs to mask his sadness. One day, Julia and I sat drinking Fanta in our backyard. We popped granules into our mouths and laughed over Chikezie's tales and cackled about what a pathetic dreamer he was and what was with the bogus American accent anyway, when everyone knew he'd only been to Europe. Or did he think we couldn't tell the difference? We fell silent when he poked his head out from behind the wall. He had been there the whole time, smoking something. Friends don't talk about friends like that, he said, and walked away. I sometimes wonder if Chikezie ever made it back to Italy, if he popped into Julie on the Milan street, and if she told him to call her Orunmila. Mother is in her coffin. Her face appears glazed like waxwork. They left the weave-on hair extensions on her head. The false hair fans out all around her face. The mask of death has turned her skin to charcoal. I feel like she has been dead for years. Job did not die alone. I should have known really that if we were ever face to face again, it would be like this, one of us dead. Tarquin comes to stand by my side. You know, Ben, I regret the misunderstanding over the cremation. Perhaps we could come to a compromise. You can take Emily's ashes with you. Might go some way to, after a pause, he says, I'll have a memorial put up here in her memory, a plaque with her name on it. That should do for me. Do you know my mother's native name, Tarquin? I ask. He shakes his head. I don't believe I do. It's Adambo. Can you ensure it appears on the memorial plaque as well? Can you write it down? He brings out a notepad and pen from a slim paper folder he's holding and hands them over to me. There, I say as I write on the page, Emily Adambo Segal, just so people know she may have come from elsewhere. Sure, Tarquin takes the notepad and stares from the added name to his wife's face. Something did happen, didn't it, back in Lagos? What was it, Ben? He stares intently into my eyes. I ask because when I think about it, she had a sadness from the start. But what drew me to her? I thought maybe I could make her happy, but I was wrong. I turned from the puzzle in his eyes to Mother's implacable face. Her eyebrows, no longer the penciled arches of her younger days, now look like bushy versions sculpted in wood. They are frosted at the edges by the white powder that must have been applied to the face. Her eyes are firmly shut, circled by even darker skin. The lips seem clasped into a thinner pair, as if forbidding me to speak. She never told, would never have told, and I cannot now tell.
In this piece that Omalora read, that there's actually a little bit more. We were talking about it earlier, and it talked about joy, about happiness, that the title character's mother didn't seem to have, no matter whom she married, and no matter where she went. And if you'll permit me, I'd like to read just that little bit there. I think it says a lot, and for those of you who are going, who will go out and buy the book. You will go out and buy the book. I think it's going to hit an incredible nerve, because it drew me. He's a good man, Tarquin. I hope his remaining years are happy. I hope he travels now that he doesn't have to sit at the doorway to watch over a wife who blames him for obstructed joy. Just that little paragraph, and I thought, my goodness. It summed up, as we were talking earlier, it summed up so many people for me who imagine that if I have this man or woman, I will be happy. If I lose weight or gain weight, if I'm taller, shorter, if I get this job, if this promotion, etc., then I will be happy. And then especially trying to look for happiness in another human being. No one can make you happy unless you have the capacity for happiness in the first place. And that little sentence or paragraph that you wrote there just sums it up. What in the world are you? And right now I'm almost throwing accusations at you that, how dare you lay every human being bare in just one paragraph? How did you manage that?
I would have liked to be able to claim credit, but maybe I happened by chance. I just got to a point in the story where maybe this was the sentiment that I think that came out for me, and I put it down. And I think what I was also trying to say with this, for those who read it, especially my twisted fan there, who read it, you would be aware of certain disturbing incidents that have occurred in the family before this mother fled. And that's another notion of also being in other places. It can be an escape from things that sometimes we can't face. And so these things had happened, but she'd never acknowledged that they happened, and she'd never healed. And I think this was the reason why she couldn't find happiness. So you can find happiness if you would acknowledge certain things, and if you can find healing, hopefully.
Thank you so much. The third and last excerpt. I'm sorry, there's only
we have one now, we don't know how much. One is the...
One is circling now, so she's circling.
How much time we have?
Do we have time to do one more?
Everybody finished.
Would you like one more? Yeah, okay.
So,
Because we would like to hear from the audience, absolutely.
Okay, so we can read one more. Is that it? Okay, so I can either read from the Scarcity of Common Goods, which is my girl power story, or if there are people who've read certain pieces here that they perhaps would like me to read an excerpt from, I can take. Anyone else?
If I may explain that, Omolara has read Indigo severally. I'm sorry, I'm literary investment. I'm doing things like
and also she's my sister, so I felt I could.
And she would like to read something new, right? Indigo is a favorite.
But if people want Indigo, I'll read Indigo. You want Indigo, you'll get Indigo.
Yes, Indigo and the Scarcity of Common Goods.
That's good. So
just by the title alone, would you like to hear Indigo, or would you like to hear the Scarcity of Common Goods? Well, I think we've got the Scarcity of Common Goods. Scarcity of Common Goods.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll read what the excerpt that I was going to read in the Scarcity.
Just that one.
Yes.
It's either or.
Okay. Spoke against the accepted wisdom and wished she had never opened her mouth. Lagos, to which she had relocated with her husband Jai 3 years before, was a hive of celebrations. She found the naming ceremonies particularly tasking, especially the industrious, cramped atmosphere of the nesting room, where a decorous huddle of women would always be cooped up with mother and child. The Kolakwa naming ceremony was no different, and about 10 female friends and relatives were holding court in the baby's room when Idera entered. "Congratulations," she said to Bola Kolakwa. Bola's aunt, in whose arms the baby nestled, placed a finger to lips that seemed to occupy half her face. Her baggy boo-boo attire did nothing to hide the tire-like circumference of her midriff. A mole perched on top of her left earlobe like an audacious fly. May I at this point welcome my godson, Timilehin?
Stand up and be recognized.
Idera thought she saw a hint of pity on Bola's face at the aunt's reprimand and wondered when the equation changed between them. When she came from London with Jaye to attend the Kolako wedding, Idera had been the sophisticated merchant banker who lived overseas and traveled everywhere. Bola could hardly keep her admiration from showing there, but now only a self-satisfied air remained, and this look of pity. Idera had seen a similar look on her father's sister, Yeye Koleosho, many times, except that Yeye always seemed to pity herself also. We're in this together, this continuing matter of your childlessness, she had said, when Idera last visited her fabric store in Balogun Market. Yeye rose to wave away a haggling customer, then dragged her chair to sit directly in front of Idera. I'm just going to come out with it, Idera. Something must be done, for your parents in heaven will never forgive me if I continue to watch like this and do nothing. Yeye ignored another shopper who, taking offense, moved quickly on. She looked intently at the bustling market scene outside before continuing. My dear child, I blame myself. I blame myself for sending you to all those fancy schools in my desire to give you everything I could never give the child I was not blessed with. But now I see I have shielded you from reality and you're suffering for it. Tears started to roll down Yeye's face, veins stood out on her neck and her voice quivered. She wiped the tears with the corner of her wrapper, but they continued to fall. Idera leaned closer and touched Yeye's knee, but the older woman would not be consoled. Don't you see? A woman cannot be married in our society and have no child to show for it. And that high-class diplomatic family you married into with their snooty ways, their determination not to behave like regular folk, they've only aided your refusal to face the truth. A 5-year marriage without issue. Child, have you ever wondered why I did not last in my husband's house? But there's no problem, Yeye, Idera said gently. Yes, my daughter, but enough. It is only a snake that slithers around without offspring behind it. Let's walk concerning the snake. Let's go the traditional way. Jaye need never know. Yeye fixed herself up, closed up shop and hailed a taxi. She said it was that urgent. An hour later, Idera shivered as they sat in front of an Ifa priest with sharp cheekbones and small piercing eyes. The Babalawo was dressed in white with a dog-eared cap of the same color. A turkey white shawl was draped on one shoulder. His voice, when he started to speak, reminded Idera of soft rain on a warm night. And a calm settled on her. Once in Ife, they divined Ifa for a chief who wanted to know why his favorite wife was not with child. He was told, why sacrifice when talk is the solution? If he would talk to the wife, the way would open. No need for sacrifice when talk will do. Yeye shifted on the rapier mat and frowned at the Babalawo's parable. Ah, Baba, this will require more than talk, oh. 5 years, Baba, 5 years and no sound of children. Yeye started to rub her palms together in supplication. Please, see what can be done for my daughter. The Babalawo's forehead creased as he looked from Yeye to Idera, then cleared his throat. He started to recast and rearrange his okwele on the Okoifa, speaking as if to his moving hand on the dividing chain. That being the case, Ifa Olokun Asorodayo, Ifa of the sea, who turns all things into joy, your daughter seeks a solution beyond talk. He said Idera would have to go to a small village shrine near Abeokuta. She would have to make the pilgrimage herself. Nobody can go there for you. Idera put Yeye's ambush out of her mind on return home. She told herself she had merely gone to Babalawo to please the superstitious Yeye. She could not imagine herself going to some shrine in order to conceive. It was ridiculous, the stuff of home video films produced in Surulere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's just a little bit of it to whet your appetite. So we'll throw the floor open to the audience. So I'd like to get some questions from somebody, first of all, who's actually read.
If I say something, I just realized when I was halfway through that reading why Adebola Rayo asked for it. If Ifa Olokun Asorodayo, isn't it? So that Adebola Rayo was for you.
So if there's anyone who has read the book that would like to either share something or ask a question, the floor is open. Anybody? Any questions? Or if you'd just like to share how your thoughts and your feelings on what you've heard tonight.
Poetic license that we can take in our search for new meanings. And that's what I was trying to do here. Because for this couple, they did really need to talk. And without also wanting to ruin it for those who have not read it, it's a bit open-ended at the end. Is it the ritual that worked, or was it the talk that brings them back together? So that's all I was trying to do.
Thank you.
So I like to explore Ifa and Yoruba mythology, but also when there's an opportunity, I like to do new things with it.
I thought it was brilliant.
Thank you.
Why did you decide to name the book Indigo?
My darling little Tilingiado. Very good question. Thank you very much. You can see perhaps that I'm wearing indigo today. Indigo is one of my major motifs as a writer. And it's something that I want to keep exploring. And indigo, or the indigo dye, or what we call adire, is a feature. It's a game changer in this particular story. And there's a river later that features in the story, which is Odoaro. And I think I have come across a couple of Odoaros in my time. So they actually do exist. Whether you can go and bathe there and have a child is another matter altogether. But we do have, and we have myths woven around them, like Yalaro and so on and so forth. And so with this story, I wrote this story in Kenya in 2010 on a cave walking workshop. And we had to write the story in 10 days. This was actually the story that was that took the shortest time in this collection. And because the child gets named Indigo at the end, the working title at first was "We'll call her Indigo," because that's something the husband says. And then my friend Mamle Kabu.
I'm going to continue these very, very difficult rites of passage for their. Has anybody written such a letter to themselves to remember what it felt like to be expected to produce a son when you had no control over it?
Is that a question for the audience?
Kind of. And you also.
Mara, maybe you just give your thoughts on that.
Okay. Has anyone written a letter to themselves about things like this? I think the Yeye Kole Osho in the story, she's actually the lady's aunt. And she believes that she's acting out of love. And it's not just, and she does allude also to the fact that she herself, her marriage broke up because she couldn't have children, and she's trying to prevent Idera suffering the same fate. But I don't think it's the fault of any one person in the story, it's society as a whole. The woman that will go to any length to try to conceive is going through all kinds of stigma daily, whether subtle or unsubtle. And it's just about all of us being conscious of this. And then also this story, and maybe another story later, where it's not just a case of whether you can even have children at all, it's whether you have just girls. And I have direct experience of this in my own extended family, you understand? And part of my life's goal has been to show that, look, I am a girl and I can do what 10 men can do, you understand? So it's about our society recognizing that in the 21st century, children are great, and I love my own kids, but if you don't want to have children, it's not just if you can't have children, but if you don't want to, or if you're not ready yet, society should not lean on you and make your life miserable. And then if you start having children, whether you have boys or you have girls, they're all great. So about writing to younger self, I don't know, but I think a lot of the stories here are letters to the past. For me, in a way that I can't really go into now, but they are letters, especially the ones set in Nigeria. They were works of nostalgia when I was based in a foreign land, and I was trying to address certain things that maybe I had seen in childhood, and they are letters to the past and to younger selves. Thank you. It's one of those stories. It's like why it's important, and I think that a number of my writer friends are here, and I also try to encourage myself in this way. Why it's important to write always is that what you would have written today, you cannot possibly write in 10 days' time, however hard you try. This is a story that, when I read it now, I'm like, what? I'm trying to figure out now what kind of psychological space I was in. But I would just say that I'm a magical realist, so I like to explore magical realism in writing, and that's what I was trying to do. But this was one of those stories that I wrote one sentence, I didn't know where it was going, then I had to write a second sentence to match up with the first, and I did this some way through, and then the characters emerged, and then I had to take them somewhere. But I thought that I was trying to deal with notions of masculinity, femininity, about what happens in a traumatized society where there's been a war, because, and also all the boys are gone, they've either become child soldiers and whatnot, and about the redemptive possibility offered by love, and it ends up being about the impossibility of love, really. But I think when I'm reading the end, I love the story personally, and when I'm reading the end, it really gets me. And I think it's about Angelina having given this young girl some notion of how she can escape her own predicament. About how, yes, sometimes we talk about escape as a trap, but sometimes the longing for escape. I think this girl does have it at the end, and she decides that I also will leave this place. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's a story that maybe I will think for another 10 years before I figure it out. Magical reality. Totally myself.
We have time issues, but we have two more.
I started writing short stories because in the mid-2000s, for instance, mid-noughties, is that what we call them? Yeah, we were all, and a number of my comrades are here, we were all part of this really vibrant online community of Nigerian writers based all over the world, and we had a listserv on the internet, which was like our own village square. And it was a great space because you saw what people were doing, you saw what you could do, and you were inspired to try and do your own. And so that's how I started writing short stories. And why short stories? I should like to think that we are writing more short stories, especially in the last 10 years. I would like to think that we are. I think some of us have been inspired. Maybe people will not always admit to it, but by things like the King Prize and so on and so forth, journals that we could send our work to, and you couldn't send your whole novel to a journal. And a short story, you know that I can try and wrap this up fairly quickly and then just work at it. So for me, it was an easier way to get into what I would later perhaps attempt to do in the novel. I don't know if that answers your question. And the characters, I think, take me where they want to go. Yeah, thank you.
So, what gave you the idea for the book?
Okay. I think maybe the moderator cheated by giving the microphone to my godson.
I couldn't help myself.
Sorry?
I couldn't help myself.
Okay. Jamila,
Mom wants to ask something.
Okay. And now the mom wants to.
Know her by, I know her by another name, by the way.
Tell us.
No, I won't. She'll kill me. But she's, I don't know, we've been friends for too long. A billion
5
years.
years.
There you go. She said something about magical realism. That's her. She introduced me to so much literature, she and my sister. Gabrielle, one of the kids.
Gabrielle Garcia Marquez.
Thank you. Magical realism all the way. That's her. And also somebody mentioned about the Yoruba, Ifa. That's her all the way. Indigo, if you can find it in magical realism, if it surpasses the imagination, you will find her there. But I have to say something about this book. I haven't read all of it, but I feel like I already know it because I think there's so much of her in every story. My favorite so far being Gani's Fall, as I told her today. I loved it. I think one of the things that and those who have read it in full can argue with me, the thread you will find all the way through is a humor, really dry, and she has this giggle. Can't even do it. You know, she has this giggle, and every so often I remember reading Gani's Fall in the 20s. He's actually nodding. You know, she has this giggle, and I remember reading Gani's Fall and thinking, that is so her. And also, somebody said to her, what did women do so wrong to you? Because all the way through, you know, you could see that men were getting their just desserts. Yeah, she represents for us. Yeah, very well. Those of us who can't get it back, she gives it back for us, clearly. You know, so I just want to say to you, darling, I'm so incredibly proud. I mean, I'm so proud. You know, I get foolish and I get tearful, so I've got to shut up. So that's big microphone. Yes, I am so proud of you. It's taken a really long journey. She was writing poems, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poems that nobody ever read, and she would read them to me. She would read them to my sister. And you know, I didn't really know a great deal about literature. And for this book, and I used to say to her, when is the book? When are you going to do this? And of course, life just pushes you along to do so many other things. She has 2 boys, and life, and living, and everything. And eventually, the book came out, and it's just wonderful.
Thanks, babe.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Believe it or not.
So, about men, yes, a male reader of mine, a wonderful male reader of mine said, Kila walk on she. What did we do? That I'm reading this, and the men, I said, well, what didn't you do? So, but you know, I love our guys all the same.
Somebody has to change the tires.
Yeah, in order for women's voices to come to the fore, men sometimes have to take a bit of a knock. That's just it. That's just it.
Just for now, you take the notes for now. At some point in time in the not too distant future, when the field is level, we won't need to give any notes. And of course, we love our men, they're all very useful. If somebody needs to change the tires, fix the lights, buy the petrol, pay for our window, we love you. No, but seriously, thank you very much, Amara, for sharing these excerpts of your short stories, and thank you everyone for listening. You've been all very wonderful. Please, 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 if you haven't read the book or bought it, please do so. You won't regret it. And look out for, in the not too distant future, her first novel, Yoruba for the Broken Hearted. That's a working title. I think it's a fantastic working title. Yoruba for the Broken Hearted.
Now, thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a resounding round of applause. And then please, Nachi Sedede. I'm feeling